sponsoring this video series. This is Ben.
Here's my new bike, my pride and joy. I'll probably get buried with it. Here's my old one, actually. Fun story about this one. It's a size big XL. I found it in the bush a long time ago, and I did several 100-kilometer rides and a 200-kilometer ride on it. And I was using it up until this year. It's the first time I ever got myself a new bike, which it's a modest bike, but it's gonna have to get me around Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, but I love it, so I'm gonna go ride there. Just doing a little ride to the gym, from the gym, commuting on a bike, honestly burns so many calories and gets so much low-level general movement up. It's not even funny. I definitely recommend jump on the bike. You see lots of countries such as, you know, Holland, Germany, lots of Europe, where people are commuting a lot on bikes and walking a lot to commute and catching a lot of public transport. Less overweight people. All right, it's a 5-kilometer ride, so it's not long, but it's long enough to get a good warm-up in. It'll probably take me like 10 to 12 minutes. So why would you not just do your warm-up on the bike on the way to the gym, get some fresh air, some good sunlight, and then start once you're there? Yep. We're back. All right, so that's the ride done. My session's up here somewhere. This is what I'm looking at doing, but I also did go for a run this morning. So I'm pretty tired and had a nap just before I came. So we'll see how it plays out. All right, so I pretty much warmed up from the bike ride, but the only thing that didn't really warm up is the tendons, which store and release elastic energy. So basically I'm just gonna bounce around, do some extensive plyometrics here, maybe just like for 1 or 2 minutes. And then I'll get into some A skips, some B skips, or some skip series. And then I'll kind of get into my warm-up-y exercises, which are also, they're priming exercises, but at the same time, they're good exercises that are gonna give me some benefit, but I just like the way they kind of prime me and fire me up for the session. All right, so exercise 1A and B is going to be some hip thrusts and some glute bridge isos essentially, and then some bounds and probably some hops or something like that. Oh. All right, so the reason I'm doing these is kind of like a primer, and I know that there's no such thing as a primer exercise to wake up muscles, because that's kind of the main shtick people talk about with activation exercises. They say, oh, I'm doing this to wake up and activate my muscle. It doesn't exist. All your muscles are activated all the time. That's what holds your skeleton up when you're just standing there. However, I think what people really mean with activation exercises, and personally what I think, is doing an exercise to help provide you with a better mind-muscle connection to a specific muscle that sometimes you find hard to really feel, even if it's just a psychological thing. So with me, I really want my glutes to be rocking and rolling when I'm doing my heavy compound strength exercise for the legs. And so these really help me kind of feel those glutes really working, which I can then translate into those big compound lifts. I'm just doing these short range of motion hip thrusts. I've always found it really hard to do hip thrusts. I've got a really big anterior pelvic tilt, and so I have to work in really small ranges of motion, just making sure I maintain that posterior pelvic tilt so I can get into some good hip extension. And I learned that from a small little video that John Meadows, the mountain dog, did one time. I always struggled because when I came down, I would extend at the spine instead of keeping my pelvis basically in that posterior tilt. And so what would happen there is I'd kind of lose engagement with my glutes being the main prime mover of the movement, and my spine, erector spinae, would take up a lot of the load of the exercise. So I found if I can just keep that posterior tilt and then just work and oscillate between that small range of motion, it feels really good for me. So for anybody that struggles with a hip thrust, like I did for a long, long time, here are my two main cues. Firstly, what you want to do is make sure that you've got a parallel shin, so it's completely straight. Too far forward, you're going to engage way too much hamstring. Too far back, you're going to get a lot of knee and quadricep. From here, posterior pelvic tilt before you even begin the exercise, and you don't lose that. So all you're doing from here is just pushing up, small range of motion, keeping that posterior pelvic tilt. But the issue is for a lot of people, they just go too low and then they'll extend their spine. Don't try to chase like insane range of motion if you can't achieve it utilizing the correct muscle group. Just oscillate between that small range of motion like I do. And second thing, one thing that really helps me learn how to feel my glute really well was with this big femur, imagine it being a hammer and you're kind of striking it back down to get into hip extension, if that makes sense. Works really good with like sprinting, some plyometrics, and also really good with this. When I'm struggling to feel my glute, I'm just thinking femur, drive down like a hammer, elevate and extend the hip. Yeah, so a really good way to explain what I was just trying to explain visually is just think anything below this knee doesn't exist. And with this femur, you're just pushing it back and you'll get a massive squeeze of your glute. So you're not worrying about anything below the knee. You're not extending at the spine. What you're doing is just with this femur, driving it back into space. If you do actually struggle with getting that true hip extension and really feeling that glute, fire up, don't stress, because even me, sometimes I don't feel really great doing it. Other times I feel really good and really sharp doing it. So it's not going to be perfect every time, don't stress too much. All right, now we got our main compound lift, squats. Probably going to go 2 squat variations. I'll do a back squat and a front squat. Kind of wanted to do just back squats today because I've done front squats a bit, haven't done back squats for ages, but I've been liking my clean position, so I really want to just keep that up. But also my knees have been really tender of late with a lot of cycling and getting back into leg work and squatting. So that's something you got to be cautious of if you've had prior history of like jumper's knee, patella tendonitis, or like patella femoral pain or something like that. Something you got to be conscious of is how much you really load that knee, that anterior knee. So if you're getting really, really bad pain and you still want to continue squatting with really bad knee pain, there's 2 things. Oh, Sam Kimberly loves this song. There's 2 things you can do. Make sure you're going really slow. Tendons are pretty happy when you're moving really slow. In fact, it gives it like a really nice analgesic effect, so the soreness kind of goes away. Or try to perform the same kind of movement patterns, but loading the posterior chain a little bit more. So if you were doing front squats and they were really causing you grief with your knees, just resort back to a back squat, because that's going to load the posterior chain a little bit more than the knees, because the knees aren't going as far over the toes. Front squat is a really demanding exercise for your knees. Still, my New Year's resolution, I've got to stop talking as much. Shoes off, they don't have to be off. There's a lot of shoe off cucks that say you can't train unless your shoes are off. You can have them on or off, doesn't matter that much. But ideally, if you're loading heavy weights and you need stability, if your shoes are very cushiony ones, such as a modern age running sneaker, best get them off. Got to get a little bit less yapping from my behalf. Brother's yapping too much, he needs to get more work done, less yapping. Just a little warm up, front rack position. My front rack position is dog before it's warmed up. It needs like 1 or 2 sets to feel good. That's one of the main reasons why I do warm up sets. And before I do Olympic lifting, say cleans, I always do heavy front racks. Pah, nice. I think I'm going to do 5 or 6 sets of squats. And if you are, and you have ample room in the gym, ample equipment, and not that many people, grab yourself a seat, sit down, mate. Enjoy it. When you're working to failure, because that was a warm-up and going straight into another one, then I'll probably enjoy myself for a little bit. Mamu ti jebem ti usta. All right. Jebote. Jebote. Nice. Probably chuck some noise on and go to work for 8. All right, here's one issue I tend to see with people trying to get really strong at their big 3 lifts, their bench, their squat, or their dead. I fall into this trap as well. What people do is they really focus heavily on strength. So they're focusing on that like 1 to 3 rep range. Sometimes even, I'm talking about 3 or less. They're just working on pure strength. And what they're actually missing out on a lot is volume, total volume of the lift. So for example, say you do 2 sets of like 5 just to warm up, and then you do like a set of 3 and then 2 sets of 1 and then you're finished. You're not getting enough volume. And I'm not talking about volume in the sense of stimulating the muscle. I'm talking about volume of getting better at the lift. Because say if you did what I just said, that's 5, 10, 13, that's like 15, 16 reps, right? And 3 to 6 of them are super heavy. And so you're not really getting like the best form, one. And secondly, you can't really focus on nutting out your form really good because the load's so heavy. Your main goal is to just move that load and get that weight up. So what you can do to kind of negate that issue is do a couple of good warm-up sets. So I'm doing I just did 2 sets of 8. So there's 16 reps where I'm really focusing on getting good range of motion and also form. So like when I'm doing those reps, I'm not just moving the weight. I'm focusing on like balancing my like center of mass out on my feet correctly, making sure I'm distributing my weight evenly. I'm also focusing on like little tweaks, like trying not to extend at the lumbar spine too much, because I know when I get to these heavier sets, it's not gonna look as pretty and it won't feel as pretty. I'll just be trying to move the weight a bit better. So it's really important to work on form at those lower intensities, because you have the opportunity to essentially. All right, I'm probably gonna go 8. Good front rack to start. Obviously that set wasn't very pretty in comparison to the 2 before that, and that's all the more reason as to why I have that thought process. As to why I have that. That's kind of all the more reason as to why I have that thought process I was speaking about with those lesser, more moderate intensity loads. Whoa, puffed me out. Great song. I wasn't going to add any more weight on, but I think I'm going to do a set of 5 of 100 just because of this song. Classic Euro summer. Oh. One problem I have is I always just overreach. I move something, I'm like, you know what, that felt alright. Let's just smash the weight up. I think one of my main issues with my training that I need to get better at is I need to really manage my load appropriately and the way I would manage it for my clients. There's an old saying with coaching is like, you'd never coach one of your clients the way you coach yourself. And that's a big flaw of mine with my training. I really need to have appropriate load management. So I'm probably just gonna do 1 heavier set because I've just gotten back into squats like a week ago. And then I might do 1 back off of 8 for 90. All right. Oh, that was a grindy one. Steer clear of the next one, stay with that. It's honestly a big problem with training, especially with this whole grind culture push at the moment, mixed with like hybrid athlete kind of push. It's like you got people that are on Instagram posting, oh yeah, oh he just almost kicked her in the face. Oh yeah, I ran a marathon just before and now tonight I'm gonna deadlift 400 pounds or something like that. It's fine, you can do it, but the problem is people aren't aware that you kind of have to increase your load appropriately to get to that point where your body has adapted and is prepared to face that demand and deal with it. A lot of people just be able to do it and then they're like, oh, I'll do it a couple times here and there, and then next thing you get injured just because they just spike their load drastically. So long story short, just try not to spike your load, stay within a 10% increase each week of, you know, load intensity increased or volume intensity, which I struggle with a lot. I f that up a lot. I'd be really curious to find out what movie Sam's watching at the moment. Like maybe, what's the movies that Jack Sparrow's in? Literally forgot. Anyway, he's probably watching that. He's watching something, that's for sure. He's digesting some form of long content right now. I actually don't mind recording sessions like this because I just sit here and wait for my sets. Like I don't go on my phone, don't doom scroll, anything like that. It's really cool. Kind of just look around, people watch a little bit. May as well do it. Oh, it's a dodgy first one. Oh, this is a dodgy rep. Oh, it's a bit better. Oh, that was a really dodgy set. That's literally my body saying, chill lad, give it a rest for the night. So that's me done with this. Whew. Really nice way of monitoring intensity in real time. Your body just saying, that's it for tonight, lad. The Smith machines are taken. In my latest programming, superset these and calf raises. Sadly, the Smith machine is taken, both of them. And it's just the most goated way of doing calf raises, so I've got to wait for that. Usually I do both and then rest because they don't associate with each other. Like the hamstring and the glute is used for this Romanian deadlift variation, whereas the calf raises are just calf raises. We're utilising the soleus and the gastroc. So that's why they work really good in combination. But sadly I can't do it, so yeah, I just got to do this. I really like this variation. When I first saw this exercise, my initial impression was very gimmicky. However, I really like it. So all we're doing is holding on for stability, single leg deadlift, and then coming up, stabilizing, using that hip flexor drive to kind of hold that dumbbell up and using the working glute to kind of stabilize at the top position. And then once you feel good, just in and out. Woo, bit of a burn. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I really like it. It just puts my leg in a really nice position to really feel that glute and that hamstring. Act as that like hammer that I was speaking about before, driving the foot and pulling through the ground. Also, when I bring that knee up and kind of use that hip flexor drive to hold and stabilize that weight, my working glute is on fire, trying to stabilize that upright position. So I really like it. Now, you probably saw that I'm only using 20 kilos, which isn't light, but in the past I've used like 45 kilos for kickstand RDLs. So the reason why I'm using much less of a load is because I've just come off a hamstring injury and I'm coming back with the approach of minimum effective dose essentially for my hamstring. Because it's obviously been injured, it hasn't got a lot of capacity. So what I'm doing is just providing it with just enough to create an adaptation And so 20 kilos is doing that for me. And on top of this, like I said, when I first saw this exercise, I thought it was really gimmicky because of this hip flexor drive. I'm like, why wouldn't you just do a hip flexor exercise? Especially because you're getting only like a shortened range of motion. But it just feels really good and I really like it. And I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone. Although I'm not getting like a full range of motion hip flexor drill, you're still getting a little bit of work into it in that small range of motion, holding up that weight. But it's just a really good exercise for stabilizing on that single leg in that upright position. And holding on for stability is really good. A lot of people do like single leg RDLs, but hold on to nothing. I honestly would never really do that. Sometimes I do, but barely ever. You just want to give yourself that external stability, and you can do that through either being in a kickstand position with that back non-working leg just leveraged behind you on the floor, or holding onto something here. And the beauty of this, holding onto something here, is that if you want to, you can really rotate your pelvis and you've just got that added stability to help support you with balance. Couple of tips to this exercise: really catch this dumbbell on the way up, and the further away it is from your body on that femur, obviously the harder it is with the resistance. The closer you have it to your body, obviously you're fighting less gravity. Yeah, but oh, me backside, lad. Yeah, like I was mentioning before, load is kind of a tricky one because people are like, the more you can load joints, muscles, a particular movement pattern, the better, the more durable it's going to become. It depends on a million different variables. First approach I would usually take is load something, especially like a muscle or a tendon. Loves load. But then at the same time, if you want to get your joints into a particular position, you can't use shitloads of load because of a range of reasons. Like, you might barely even be able to get your joints into a particular position and own that position. So obviously if you load it too heavily, yeah, you can probably perform the exercise, but are you going to truly hit the specific joint positions that you want to hit to execute a specific outcome? So like a perfect example is like a kickstand. Say a kickstand where you've got the weight on the inside hand and you're kind of rotating your pelvis internally over that lead leg. Obviously you won't be able to move as much load as if you were just doing a straightforward kickstand RDL. But if you're focusing on trying to get that internal rotation of the pelvis and really get into that glute, then you're not going to use as much load, and that's perfectly fine. If you want to use as much load as possible, use it. Just always have a why behind the what. Yeah, but all right, one more. Oh, lad. Yeah, but all right, please be a Smith machine available. All right, best machine in the universe for standing calf raises. Unable to change my mind. Just try to get a really big stretch and squeeze with these. And don't let your foot roll out. Dude, Revo are crazy. You'll ask for like an extra Smith machine or like a Viking attachment to the landmine press, and they'll just come in and be like, oh, we got a limited edition Schnitzel von Krumm collab boiler room sandwich press. All right, so tomorrow's my rest day. We got SJs in the morning, Saturday mornings. So I'm gonna do a really heavy single leg alternating eccentrics. Oh. So the goal here is to really load the tendons, the Achilles tendons, and the weight you want to put on. Personally, what I do is I put on enough load so that on the 6th rep on each eccentric, I basically can't control it at all, and then I bail. Tendons love load and they love slow loading. So I'm just gonna come up, both feet up, and then remove one. Oh, and just lower. Oh. Yeah, I basically can't control the last one on each foot. And the real goal of the exercise is to get really high on both, remove one, and just don't let it drop instantly. Kind of try to control it. And if you've loaded it correctly, around that 6th rep, you'll really struggle to maintain control, and that's kind of where you bail. But yeah, I can't stress enough, tendons love slow loading and heavy loading. So if you combine the two, you're probably going to leave yourself with super strong, super happy and super healthy tendons. And it's a really good kind of method to utilize when you're working with a tendinopathy, whether it's Achilles, patella tendinopathy. Slow loading. The best thing for those are isometrics, excluding an insertional Achilles tendinopathy. But research suggests that it doesn't have to be an isometric, which is a stagnant position. It can be just a really, really slow controlled movement. As long as it's slow, research suggests it's going to be really good. I'll go one more super heavy because I'll just do one more set and then maybe a back off, just normal calf raises. Oh, not that, that. Oh, dude. Alright, that one might have been just a touch too heavy. If you watch back, I was really struggling with maintaining minimal control of the eccentric. That's something to note. That's probably the threshold for me. Alright, I'll take these 5s off each side, just do 10 to 12 normal and just really try to focus on good range of motion, good form. That killed me. Oh man, I'll be honest, I really can't be arsed doing leg extensions, but I haven't really done any isolated quad work and it's really important. Tomorrow's a rest day. I think it's just one of those things where you just gotta knock it out. Just do it, like don't think, just do it. So I'm gonna try to squeeze out a few sets. So like before I was saying, we kind of wanna elicit a specific outcome from our exercises. What I wanna do here is work on my quad, but more importantly, bias my rec fem. And so what I'm going to do is get into as much hip extension as possible. Put that seat nice and far back. And so instead of being sat in this flexion where you're going to get more of that distal quad, like quad closest to the knee, what you're going to do is you're going to lean back into hip extension and you're going to get a lot more of this rec fem, this muscle that travels from your hip down to your quad. A biarticular muscle, which means it crosses two joints. Oh. The reason why I'm doing 2 legs, I usually do 1, but I just can't be fucked because of the time. So I was trying to literally kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Sorry to all my clients that I make do this. Also, there's a whole thing going on at the moment, like circulating social media, bagging out the leg extension and just saying it's not a good exercise for the quads and like hypertrophy of the quadriceps. That is completely different to my philosophy. I reckon this is the go-to exercise for quad development. You're like securely tucked into a seated position where you can really stabilize yourself holding onto the handles and you can legit just go to town. I don't see how that isn't a great modality to improve quad strength and get quad growth. That just does, honestly, baffles me that people think that. I think the 2 most bona fide exercises for building muscle are the leg extension for your quadriceps and lateral raises for your shoulders. Like, if you just spam the shit out of both of those, your shoulders and your quads will blow up. It's impossible for it not to happen. Yeah, all these tier posts are really giving us the shits at the moment, like S tier to E tier. You get, yeah, they're annoying me. Can't even talk about it. I'm choking on my own rage here. Also, the range of motion you get is awesome too. You can even add attachments that give you more range of motion. One more. Just a random thought. Sam gets like a lot of haircuts regularly. I just said wear a hat if you don't like your hair looking bad. And he said I don't like wearing hats inside. I used to hate wearing hats inside. That is just a random gym thought at 8 o'clock at night. Like, where did that change for me? What happened? I think hair is just so annoying. putting a cap on just sorts it then and there. Don't know, interesting to think about. Something to ponder. Done. Awesome. So good. Oh, you get a massive pump as well when you do these. Just one more time, Sam's favourite song gets played at Revo hourly. So if you're here for 12 hours, you're hearing it at least 12 hours. All right, that's it. That's training done. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, feel free to like the video or subscribe to the channel. And if you do enjoy this kind of content and enjoy the way we train, look into SJ's community. We have online programming available, coaching from me and Sam, form checks, catch-ups, access to a community of like-minded people with the same goals, same aspirations, same drive and desire for success. Yeah, and it's really cheap. It's $1 a day. I'm gonna go ride my bike home now in the dark. So thanks for watching. Take care.